How's it guys? What's going on? My name is Prashant and welcome back to Tech Scenes Area. On today's video, I'm going to be moving my installation of Windows from my old mechanical hard disk drive to my brand new SSD. So if this is your first time here at Tech Scenes Area, you better make sure you're subscribed because you're missing out on all the awesome content that we put out. The first question that comes to mind, why would you do such a thing? And you know what? For me, it helps you save money and it's very easy to do. If you compare something like this where I just bought the SSD and I'm performing the upgrade compared to giving it to a company or like a retailer or someone to perform the upgrade for you, and there most of the time you're not going to be allowed to keep your data. You get freshly wiped and they reinstall Windows, and that doesn't work for me because, as you guys know, there's so much of installed software and all. I don't have the time to reinstall everything. Question is, why the hard disk drive of everything? So the drive is basically the last thing to upgrade, I guess, because my system is an HP flatbed desktop, and it comes with a Core i5-2400 CPU processor, which runs at about, I think, 3.1 gigahertz. It has 6 gig of RAM, and the internal drive is, I think, 180 gig or 120 gig, something like that. So RAM wise, we don't really max out on the RAM, and even the processor, I can have like about 6 or 8 tabs open and I wouldn't really see that much of CPU usage or RAM usage. So the one problem that we do see is the high fluctuation of disk read writes, and sometimes the disk clocks out at 100% usage. Let's talk a bit about the SSD. So the SSD is a NetAC 240 gig SSD. It's a 2.5 inch drive. It has SATA. It has SATA 3, which is capable of read-write speeds of nearly 3 gigabits per second. As I said, it's a 2.5 inch drive. So what makes this convenient? Besides just going into a desktop, you can also throw it into your laptop and there's no repercussions or anything like that. So it works both ways. The other thing was that it comes with 5-year warranty, and that I felt was fairly decent for the price. So on the factor of price, I spent 599 Rand, and it is available at that price from Takealot. So, and that was one of the main reasons I actually went with this, because of its price point for the size. So the one thing to keep in mind is that when upgrading or doing the sort of upgrade that we're doing, you need to remember that the total space that your current mechanical drive is using cannot exceed the new SSD drive size. So like if, say for instance, you have a 500 gig mechanical drive installed there and you're using 300 gig because there's movies and stuff, you can't just do the sort of upgrade that we're doing. You need to make sure it's less than the size of the drive that you are moving to. Otherwise, this is not going to work at all. We're going to download AOME Backupper. Right, so let's go here and you don't really need to Google, you can find the link in the description. But we're going to need version 6.3 because every version after that, the feature that we're going to be using is locked by a purchase, whatever. Right, so let's download version 6.3. You need to navigate all the funny download buttons and stuff and make sure you're downloading the correct software. Right, so let's wait for that to download. And the size of the file is 112 megabytes. Let's wait for that quickly. Now you can see how intermittent our internet connectivity is and how slow the download is. And I'm seriously getting tired, guys, with how slow our internet is. Installation successful. So we're just going to clone our boot primary partition, right? Which is this 100 gig partition on the drive. And with that selected, we're going to select our SSD as the destination path. Click next, and then you tick SSD alignment. So what it is, if your destination disk is an SSD, you check this option, it will accelerate the reading and writing speed for your SSD. Right, and then we click start clone. So while we wait for this, let me quickly just run you through a little bit, right? So my drive is actually a 500 gig drive that I have partitioned into our primary boot partition, which is 100 gigs, and then there's a separate 360 gig, which I'll explain to you guys at the end of the video. But you see the way that we did mine was different compared to if you're just cloning the entire drive. So if you're cloning just the entire drive and you say you got an actual 100 gig drive and not a 100 gig partition, and you're cloning it to a 240 gig SSD. So all you have to do there, the other option on AOME, where you can clone an entire drive, you select that option and you just, same thing, align SSD and go that way. Mine is a little bit different because we have our partitions, but that's the easiest way, and that's actually the reason that I chose AOME to do my clone and my conversion from a mechanical hard disk drive to an SSD. It's just basically a couple of clicks and it does everything on its own. So let's wait for this to finish now. So once the cloning process is done, and it is quite a long process, you need to change some settings in your BIOS for your PC to boot from your new SSD. Right? So you switch off, or after the cloning process is done, you shut down, and then when you're restarting now, what you're going to do, you're going to go into the BIOS. So as soon as you power it on, you're going to wait. And then as you see the boot screen, it'll be different for different board manufacturers, but generally it's F10 that you need to press to get into the boot menu or the BIOS menu. So as soon as you're into the BIOS, you're going to find what says boot order. So it'll be different on different devices, but mine is boot order. And what we're going to do, so SATA 1 is my hard disk drive and SATA 2 is my solid state drive. So what we're going to do, we're going to change our solid state drive to boot before the hard disk drive. And then we're just going to click F10, save changes and exit. And now it's going to boot, hopefully, straight from my SSD. And there we go. It's booted straight into my SSD. So with your old drive, what you can do, generally, you can either take it out or use it somewhere else. You can find a hard drive enclosure, maybe take your drive if it's a big drive. So my drive is actually a 500 gig drive. So it isn't that big, but it is an option. You can get an enclosure, you can reuse your drive like that. You can pull your hard disk drive, put it in a different machine if you have such opportunities. Or you could do something like what I'm doing. And it's basically, I'm leaving my 500 gig hard disk drive in there. And it's going to be used as external storage. So as you guys know, we have the server that houses all our data basically. If you haven't seen our server setup and all the videos that go with that, there's going to be a playlist linked up there in the YouTube cards. Go ahead, click that, watch it. There's a lot of features we have on our server, and there's a lot of videos that teach you how to set some of those features up. But anyway, that's besides the point. So all our data is stored there, and basically what happens on the PC, it saves files to work offline basically. So now my 500 gig drive, to cut a long story short, is basically going to be the storage space that all the offline files get stored to. And that's it. Yeah, it's short, sweet, and that's it. All the offline files get stored like that, and you don't have to do it as complex as mine. You could just have it as a second drive that you store your movies and stuff on. And I mean, it works. You don't need fast booting times and fast response times from a drive like that that's just storing data. But yeah, it was a lovely video to make. This one was a fun one. It was a nice video to make. It really got my head scratching. And as you guys would have seen in that video with the boot time, it doesn't always work to the way that you think. So because it picked up the drive change, all the Windows licenses actually kicked off and said, hey, something's wrong here. You need to reactivate your Windows. And that's what I had to do. It was a small thing compared to actually reinstalling Windows to the new SSD, and then reinstalling all the programs and copying my files across and setting up all the settings. That would have been too much of work. I mean, just reactivating Windows and Office, that was an easy thing, yeah. But that brings our video to a close. It was an easy video, easy step-by-step tutorial. If you guys have any questions about how you have it done, or you get stuck at any step, you can leave your questions in the comment section below. I'll be trying to help you out. I'll be happy to try and help you out. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you can let me know by giving a like rating if you did. And if you aren't already subscribed, make sure you get subscribed. Ding dong that notification bell to be notified every time we post a video. Yeah guys, thank you very much for watching. My name is Prashant, and I'll see you in the next video.